I invite people to understand that we're living in a melting pot. Everybody's going to get real cozy and tight as everybody intermingles and gets close to each other.
Yeah.
You know, that could go two ways. That could get real hostile, or we could kind of like try to understand each other.
Yeah.
And isn't that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
We're trying to understand other people, and we want them to understand us, where we've been. And in this ever-integrating world, I just think that there's got to be room for everybody, man. It's not easy to change gears.
Yeah.
Even if you're starting to feel pressure in this new world to like, I don't know what I should believe anymore. Take it easy. I don't think anyone should be taking away anyone else's beliefs.
Welcome, modern day mystics, fellow truth seekers, James and Justin, back at it again with another reaction video. Now, this is one of our big requests, probably our biggest request right now from our Muslim audience, because we touch on a lot of, spiritual, religious subjects, and every now and then.
What's up, Muslims?
We do one on Islam, and, we've had a giant response in the comments from you guys telling us all about your religion and your faith. Most of you are nice. Every now and then we get some rude ones. We're just, two guys, trying to learn and grow off of that, doing these videos. Now, this one is called 9 Shocking Facts from the Quran.
Ooh, I like shocking facts.
So I'm sure it's gonna be trying to prove its validity or whatever, something to do like that. Now,
or just shock us.
Maybe just shock us. A couple of things I'd like to say just before we get into it, because we read a lot of your comments. We are not Christians. We're not here pushing the Bible either, even though we read it as a spiritual text.
Do a lot of people think that we're Christians?
Yeah, a lot of people presume that we're Christians sometimes.
Well, we are pretty Christianish. Like we're not like evangelical Christians, but here's the thing, man. I would quote something from the Bhagavad Gita. I'd quote something from the Quran. I'd quote, and I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea. That's probably a lot of people's not their cup of tea. Yeah. But what we are doing here is handling spiritual plutonium. We're doing the crazy, socially incorrect, spiritually incorrect stuff. So that, so you can observe what happens when you look at all the different religions and look at all the different perspectives.
Yeah. So we hope that you, stick with us if you find that interesting and you're into it. I know some of you are. We're not here to try to offend anyone. Yeah. Also, we are boning up on our knowledge of these subjects. I don't know if you've read the Quran. I've listened to the whole audiobook. And I have read many parts of the Quran. I picked it up once in a library. I think I may have picked it up once or twice. And the first time I picked it up was when I was a Christian going to church. And I was flipping through it and I found Jesus in it. I was like, what? Jesus is in the Quran? I didn't know, And so that was my first introduction to it. I got to get around to. I'm making my way through other books right now. And I'm also not naive to think that I listened to the audiobook or I read some of the Quran that it makes me some type of an expert. Right. If it's anything like other spiritual texts, these things take a lifetime to go through and absorb and pull out all the.
Come to think of it, I'm not even sure it was the Quran I picked up. Correct me if Jesus, I think, is in the Quran, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So, with all that, laid out there, let's get right into this reaction video. 9 Shocking Facts from the Quran.
Ever since the dawn of mankind, we have sought to understand nature and our place in it. In this quest for the purpose of life, many people have turned to religion. Most religions are based on books claimed by their followers to be divinely inspired, without any proof. Islam is different because it is based upon reason and proof. There are clear signs that the Book of Islam, the Quran, is the Word of God, and we have many reasons to support this claim. There are scientific and historical facts found in the Quran which were unknown to the people at the time and have only been discovered recently by contemporary science. The Quran is in a unique style of language that cannot be replicated. This is known as the inimitability of the Quran. There are prophecies made in the Quran and by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
So right away we're saying Quran wrong, because how's he saying it? He was saying Quran, but he was like Quran.
I don't know, Quran. I think I've heard people say Quran. I don't know. I think we're doing a good. We're okay. I think
Quran sounds different than Quran. The Quran.
Okay, I don't know.
Which have come to pass. The following are some facts found in the Quran. Number 1. Origin of life. Water is essential for all living things. We all know that water is vital to life, but the Quran makes a very unusual claim. We made every living thing from water. Will they not believe? In this verse, water is pointed out as the origin of all life.
Yeah, good point. When it says we, that's one thing you'll notice when you read the Quran, it says we a lot, which is, maybe you can explain for us. And the only thing I have to go off of here is kind of like a biblical reference. So don't shoot me down here. I was like, but
Bible thumper.
I know in the beginning of Genesis it says, "Let us create man."
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, that's kind of like a little bit Bible-y.
Yeah,
well, obviously not Bible-y, but you know what I'm saying? Like similar.
But let us know what the "we" is kind of like.
But they branch off from the same. Isn't there roots that go to the same source a little bit between the God of the Bible and the God of the...
Yes. Just Muslims believe that the Bible has been corrupted over time and that the Quran is now the final, perfect word of God.
Right.
All living things are made of cells. We now know that cells are mostly made up of water. For example, 80% of the cytoplasm, basic cell material, of a standard animal cell is described as water in biology textbooks. The fact that living things consist mostly of water was discovered only after the invention of the microscope. In the deserts of Arabia, the last thing someone would have guessed is that all life came from water. Number 2. Iron. Iron is not natural to the earth. It did not form on the earth but came down to earth from outer space. This may sound strange, but it's true. Scientists have found that billions of years ago, the earth was struck by meteorites. These meteorites were carrying iron from distant stars, which had exploded. The Quran says the following on the origin of iron. We sent down iron with its great inherent strength and its many benefits for humankind. God uses the words sent down for iron. It is clear from the verse that iron is not an earthly material, but was sent down for the benefit of humanity.
That is crazy.
I don't want this to turn into a debunking video because that's not what I'm here to do, is to be like a debunking. There's plenty of those out there. But remember, language is a funny thing, right? You can put a lot on there. It's interesting, fascinating stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even realize that about iron. I didn't know that was like a scientific thing about iron, is that it's not indigenous to Earth.
Well, is
that true?
That is putting. Well, again, you have to go do your research in other places. But what I'm saying is, like, language is a funny thing, right? You got to understand.
Is there a scientist out there right now that's like,
okay, watch some debunking videos. But they're like, and that is part of like getting to truth. I'm not going to be sit here and spew that all over this video because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm just saying, though, on a video like this, it's take it, absorb it, watch it for what it is. But if you're willing to like solidify all your absolute truths and rock on something, you better strawman yourself in the other direction and try and disprove your own beliefs.
Right. Remember the old Ray Comfort videos where he'd be like, look at a banana. It's like an organic chocolate wrapper. It wraps it, banana fits into your sandwich. Ipso facto, God's real and we didn't come from apes. If you just roll with it without being like, hang on a sec. Then, you know, for fun, if you want to see a very Christian version of this, look up Ken Hovind. He's like the Christian Scientist guy, and he'll be like, the Earth's spinning at this point, and this, so that way God. So it is, mathematically it equals God. And I was like, the whole time I was just like, okay, this is neat. All this science or whatever, like, I'm not going to go double blind check any of this shit, but I also thought we were supposed to be believing this on faith. What happened to the, like, you know, you can't put no other way but faith. You know, why are we adding peppering science in? You know, and by the way, I'm okay with peppering science in. I'm okay with that. But I'm saying, if somebody's saying it's only
logic
by faith,
and reason and all that stuff, yes.
But that's from secular ass me saying like, I'm okay with science proving God, but why are you okay with it? I thought it was, you know, I thought it was magic and faith and or whatever. You know, why are we proving it with this?
But that's a good question right there.
But that's just you know, you're allowed to think. Yep. You know, if God is real, He gave us brains.
Yep. Let's keep it going.
The fact that Iron came down to Earth from outer space is something which could not be known by the primitive science of the 7th century. Number 3. Sky's protection. The sky plays a crucial role in protecting the Earth. The sky protects the Earth from the lethal rays of the sun. If the sky did not exist, then the sun's radiation would have killed off all life on Earth. It also acts like a blanket wrapped around Earth to protect it from the freezing cold of space. If this temperature was to reach Earth, then the planet would freeze over instantly. The sky also protects life on Earth by warming the surface through heat retention, greenhouse effect, and reducing temperature extremes between day and night. These are some of the many protective functions of the sky. The Quran asks us to consider the sky in the following verse. We made the sky a protective ceiling, and yet they are turning away from our signs. The Quran points to the sky's protection as a sign of God.
I just feel like on a statement like that, you could read it in many ways, right?
You're botching this, man.
I'm not botching anything. I'm just saying, you could read it in many ways. I hear what the guy's saying. Yeah. But like instantly in my brain, I've got like, I could interpret that, that was saying like in many ways.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to a little bit of like a spiral dynamics.
Back to the spiral dynamics.
You know, Maslow's, you know, like,
hierarchy of needs.
As beliefs and thoughts and things develop, right?
Yeah.
I do think that there's a type of person, you know, in a primitive state, you could go up to somebody and be like, you know, that's the sun god and that's the moon god and bippity boppity, you know, it's all magical. And then magical thinking would take over and they'd be like, yeah, you're right. You know, that explains it. And then I do think as things progress, you get science and now you're measuring all this stuff. And the closer you look with microscopes and telescopes, it starts to reveal like physics and laws and things you can measure. And then, you know, now, you know, it may reveal the idea of evolution, you know, and it's like, okay, so some of these, you know, some of these magical type things, we're getting like an explanation for it. And then you might go through a process where you're like, okay, so nothing's magical. It's all physical. It's all material. And that's that. But I think further down the road, we've alluded to this before, there is a return to like, wait a sec. Even with science and everything, it is groundless. And this thing is magical. Yeah. And if it is a great...
And there seems to be an infinite unpacking of everything. No matter how far you dig and measure and use your science, it seems to be always infinite. More to go. The more you just keep digging.
Right. And so I think in that you find, you know, holy crap, it turns out there's like a sacred nature and a mystical aspect to all the same stuff. Yeah. Even there are things in math and science that you could discover, like make you believe in God. Yeah. You're like, that's crazy. You know, there's you know, levels to infinity. There's like infinities that are greater than other infinities. It just boggles the mind, right? And so I just want to put that in there. It's not like you can't, I think, you know, a deeply awakened or mystical person could pick up different script. That's why we do pick up different scriptures, and they are sacred and they are like cherished books because they're a part of this reality, which by its own very nature is mystical. All of it is, you know, you may, but that also means that you can find truth in a frickin', you know, somewhere where you would least expect it. Yeah. You know, You might find truth, looking at like a caterpillar or something.
Good point.
It's all part of the same thing. So of course there would be some truth in here.
The protective properties of the sky were discovered by scientific research conducted in the 20th century. Number 4. Mountains. The Quran draws our attention to a very important characteristic of mountains. Did we not make the earth as a resting place and the mountains as stakes? The Quran indicates that mountains have deep roots by using the word stakes to describe them. In fact, mountains do have deep roots, and the word stakes is an accurate description for them. A book titled Earth by geophysicist Frank Press explains that mountains are like stakes and are buried deep under the surface of the earth. Mount Everest, the height of which is approximately 9 kilometers above ground, has a root deeper than 125 kilometers. The fact that mountains have a deep stake-like roots was not known until after the development of the theory of plate tectonics in the beginning of the 20th century. Number 5. Expansion of the universe. At a time when the science of astronomy was still primitive, the expansion of the universe was described in the Quran. And it is we who have built the universe with our creative power and keep expanding it. The fact that the universe is expanding was discovered in the last century. The physicist Stephen Hawking, in his book A Brief History of Time, writes, "The discovery that the universe is expanding was one of the great intellectual revolutions of the 20th century." The Quran mentioned the expansion of the universe even before the invention of the telescope. Number 6. Sun's orbit. In 1512, the astronomer Nicholas Copernicus put forward his theory that the sun is motionless at the center of the solar system and that the planets revolve around it. The belief that the sun is stationary was widespread amongst astronomers until the 20th century.
That's weird though, because wasn't there for like a long time people believed that the Earth was the center of the universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is saying that they just discovered it in the 20th century or whatever. At least I thought that was what it said.
I don't know. I kind of drifted off.
Yeah, like I thought for a long time people thought that the sun and the moon were revolving around the.
Yeah, I definitely think that was like a
predominant sun and moon. Yeah,
and wasn't it? He said Copernicus, right, was the one that was like, look through the telescope.
That was Galileo.
Galileo. Galileo was trying to say that we're not the center and we're part of a, look through my
and there's other planets.
And wasn't it the church that was like, kill him?
Kill him, yeah.
It is now a well-established scientific fact that the sun is not stationary, but is moving in an orbit around the center of our Milky Way galaxy.
Not to say that there weren't other cultures out there that might have said that the sun is stationary.
There's some crazy things. You ever seen those like carvings in Mesopotamia of like the 9-planet solar system?
Yes.
Joe Rogan talks about it all the time.
Yeah. Is that part of like Grant Hancock or whatever the guy is? Grant Hancock.
I think he's maybe talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some crazy
wild stuff. Yeah.
The Quran mentions the orbit of the sun. It is He who created night and day, the sun and the moon, each floating in its orbit. The Quran would have been wrong according to astronomers just a couple of decades ago, but we now know that the Quranic account of the sun's motion is consistent with modern astronomy. Number 7. The ocean. The Quran uses imagery to convey its deep meanings. Here it describes the state of the unbelievers as darkness out in a deep ocean, which is covered by waves, above which are waves, above which are clouds, layers of darkness, one upon the other. When one puts out his hand therein, he can hardly see it. Those God gives no light to, they have no light. It is commonly thought that waves only occur on the surface of the ocean. However, oceanographers have discovered that there are internal waves that take place below the surface of the ocean. These waves are invisible to the human eye, and can only be detected by specialist equipment.
Regardless of whether or not it's all, this is like divine inspired, miraculous information given her, it's pretty cool that they knew some of this stuff. There are other scriptures that talk about, like there are other, faiths that have, we were talking about the images on the wall. I know there's other spiritual books that talk about the currents that run under.
Dude, I think most cultures,
fascinating.
I think most cultures have like a flood story.
Yeah.
And we grew up kind of always being like, I don't know, did the flood happen or not? That sounds pretty crazy, but it's like there's a lot of stuff that points to,
there's a lot of people now that say that, there was a flood.
Yeah, I think in the book of the Epic of Buddha,
I think Muslims believe there was a flood.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty sure in the Epic of Buddha, which I'm reading, it said something about an ice age. I was like, they knew about an ice age? Like, what the heck? There's all kinds of cool stuff like that. And I think that where it's legitimate,
this is where it gets fun, where you get to like extract and pull out some of this stuff. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I understand that there are people that would, when you're going to like kind of critique and, sort of in a cavalier way, pick apart something that's like somebody's cherished, beloved belief, they're going to be like, what the F you can't be talking like that. I know Christians that are like, if you're not a Christian, don't be quoting scripture. Like, you know what I mean? As if I don't get to talk about it if I'm not that thing.
Yeah.
It's a free country, so I get to do whatever the F I want. Yeah. But I invite people to understand that we're living in a melting pot. Everybody's going to get real cozy and tight as everybody intermingles and gets close to each other. Yeah. That could go two ways. That could get real hostile, or we could kind of like try to understand each other. Yeah. And isn't that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
We're trying to understand other people, and we want them to understand us, where we've been, our Christian background. We want that to be understood. We're not Christians, but that's where we came from, so we know quite a bit about that.
Yeah.
And in this ever-integrating world, I just think that there's got to be room for everybody, man. It's it's not easy to change gears.
Yeah.
Even if you're starting to feel pressure in this new world to like, I don't know what I should believe anymore. Take it easy. I don't think anyone should be taking away anyone else's beliefs.
Yeah.
But
we just slowly, comfy, get to know each other better and better.
Don't
let
my hostility. You calm down.
The Quran mentions darkness in a deep ocean above which are waves. Above which are waves, then clouds above that. This description is not only remarkable because it describes the internal waves in the ocean, but also because it describes darkness deep in the ocean. A human being can dive no more than 70 meters without breathing equipment. Light is present at that depth, but if we go down 1,000 meters, it is completely dark. 1,400 years ago, there were no submarines or specialist equipment to discover internal waves or the darkness deep inside the oceans. Number 8. Lying in movement. There was a cruel, oppressive tribal leader named Abu Jahl, who lived during the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. God revealed a verse of the Quran to warn him. No, indeed, if he does not stop, we will seize him by the forehead, his lying, sinful forehead. God does not call this person a liar, but calls his forehead, the front part of the brain, lying and sinful, and warns him to stop. This verse is significant for two reasons. The first is that the front part of our brain is responsible for voluntary movement. This is known as the frontal lobe. A book titled Essentials of Anatomy and Physiology, which includes the results of research on the functions of this area, states, the motivation and the foresight to plan and initiate movements occur in the anterior portion of the frontal lobes, the prefrontal area. The part
I think that's common with many thoughts and emotions and things like if you've ever cried, if you ever had like a major crying fit and your head's killing you, or like there's a lot of things that your emotional, your anxiety can give you headaches.
Yeah.
So
certain types of meditation will make that part of your head light up.
That's right.
Part of the brain that is responsible for movement is said to be seized if the man does not stop. Secondly, numerous studies have shown that this same region, frontal lobe, is responsible for the lying function of the brain. One such study at the University of Pennsylvania, in which volunteers were asked questions during a computerized interrogation, it was found that when the volunteers were lying, there was significantly increased activity in the prefrontal and premotor cortices frontal lobe region. Whoa, the front part of the brain is responsible for movement and lying. The Quran links movement and lying to this area. These functions of the frontal lobe were discovered with medical imaging equipment, which was developed in the 20th century. Number 9. Pain receptors. For a long time, it was thought that the sense of feeling...
I gotta say something. It's not like some of this stuff isn't pretty awe-striking and cool. It's not like that's not true. Yeah. It is. But I've met all kinds of different people, had my own experiences of people that have had mystical things happen, premonitions and weird synchronicities and what does the Bible mention? The 4 different winds of the earth or something? Like it's got its own things that like line up with science.
Very similar stuff. Yeah.
So, I remember, I saw a guy that was like ostensibly seemed like he was a different faith, and I asked him one time, like when I was a Christian, I was like, "Hey, do you think that like me and my family are gonna go burn in hell?" Because I was like Christian, and sometimes in the church they're like, those unbelievers are going to hell. You know what I mean? Like, and I remember hearing stories of people going up to Christians I knew and being like, "Hey man, do you think I'm going to hell?" And it's like, "Well, do you accept Jesus?" "Nope." "Yeah, you're gonna burn." Like, I love people. I'm a human being. And I think that there's, I as much as I think people should be allowed to believe what they do, and be like, look at the proof of what I believe. There's other people saying that. There's other faiths being like, look at the proof. And I had an experience once where, this happened and that happened and something magical and synchronistic happened. Or ghost stories or whatever the heck the thing is. I was healed. Yeah. How many Christians have I known that have been healed? So magical, miraculous things happen not just to one thing. It's not just one faith that this stuff happens in. Yeah. So I think where it becomes a problem is when there's a callous attitude of like, well, no, I'm right. My thing's right and you're wrong. So yeah, I do think you're going to hell. And in fact, you're dangerous. And I'm seeking to squash you because you're different than me. I just feel like we got to return back to this place of like somehow accepting each other. But what do you do if the faith you happen to believe in is one that leaves no room for that, and in fact hints a little bit at like, you shouldn't let them, don't let, they're messed up, by any means make yours be the best one. What are we doing here? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
I totally hear what
I'm getting at here?
I like, if you're looking at what is the purpose of a video like this, I think the purpose, like, I can't speak to the intention of it, but I would assume that
this was the interruption.
I would assume that it would be to like make people believe, the book. The idea is that we're reading the Quran and we're trying to shock you. It's entitled 9 Shocking Facts, right? To make you go, oh, it's the real McCoy.
But the thing is, that's the purpose. I understand that. But it's not that shocking. I just told you that there's other... that you've heard of other faiths talk about the shocking things they've got to prove their thing.
And I know why a lot of the people from the Muslim faith recommended a video like this. Because the whole idea is when you think you got something gold in your hand and you're like, watch this, watch them. They're going to convert right there and then on screen. Yeah. I was like, but it never ends up like that.
I had friends sending me debunking stuff when I was a Christian. Like, here, watch this. This debunks all your scientific nonsense. Because I probably was spewing stuff like, well, did you know that, because of the rate at which the Earth is spinning, that it's impossible that the Earth is this many years old? There's versions in other faiths of that. Yes. Right? So, first of all, if you're still watching this, congratulations. Especially if you're a Muslim person. You've withstood it. I just get a little freaked out at the idea somebody would be like, F this, I'm not listening, learn not the ways of the heathen, I'm not listening to it, I'm just gonna like inundate myself with what I already know to be true, and watch every science video I can to confirm what I already thought was true.
Confirmation bias.
I think that what we want to be is a little more open-minded, man.
Yeah.
A little more tolerant of like, well, if it's true, it should be able to hold up to scrutiny. It should be able to hold up to like critique.
There's one more point left.
Let's not talk.
There's one more point, and then we'll touch. I think you bring up a good point, and then we'll get to that at the very end, and we'll close her out. Okay?
Yeah.
And pain was dependent on the brain. However, it has been discovered that there are pain receptors present in the skin. Without these pain receptors, a person would not be able to feel pain. Consider the following verse on pain. We shall send those who reject our revelations to the hellfire. When their skins have been burned away, we shall replace them with new ones so that they may continue to feel the pain. God is almighty, all-wise. God tells the people who reject His message that when they are in hell and their skins are burnt off so they can't feel any pain, He will give them new skins so that they continue to feel the pain. The Quran makes it clear that pain is dependent upon the skin. The discovery of pain receptors in the skin is a fairly recent discovery for biology. These are just some of the many facts found in the Quran. It is important to know that the Quran is not a book of science, but that it is consistent with science. To claim that scientific facts in the Quran are due to coincidence would be irrational. The best explanation is that God revealed this knowledge to the Prophet Muhammad. Just like the Quran contains knowledge about the natural world, it also contains information about the inner dimensions of our souls. It relates to our feelings, wants, and needs. The Quran informs us that we have a purpose in life, and that following God's guidance will lead us to an inner peace in this life and paradise in the hereafter, and that rejection of His message will lead to depression in this life and hellfire after death. We shall show them our signs in the universe and within themselves, until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth. Is it not enough that your Lord is the witness of all things?
All right. You want me to go first?
I just wanted to... Yeah, you go first.
Okay, well, the last thing that sounded awful, that God would, burn all your skin off and then regrow it so you can burn it again.
Well, I don't want that to happen. So just tell me where to sign up.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, that sounds horrible. And, these are the types of things that you have to, I get into the questioning aspect of things that you have, look deep within. Me personally, when I think about that, if God is supposed to be the source of infinite love and all that is good.
And made me. So imagine I made something and I was like, there, you're a piece of shit. And I destroyed that thing I just made.
I'm going to burn your skin off and just keep regrowing it for infinity while you burn.
Yeah.
Think about that for a bit. Come on. Think about it.
This pie I made is burnt. Stupid pie. Stupid idiot pie. But here's the thing. I realize that it's much more complicated than that. And there's actually some truth. I've known Christians that have said things like, God's ways are greater than ours. And I actually, and you could apply that to this, like Allah's ways are greater than ours or something. And I actually do think there's some truth in that. We are but ignorant people.
Yes.
But I just get freaked out at the idea that, I'm trepidatious and I'm skeptical at tactics to get people. What was the one verse that was, blessed are those that have seen and believed, or there are those that have seen and believed, but super blessed are those that have not seen and believed anyway. So ooh, lucky me, I believe, and I haven't even seen jack shit to confirm it. I guess I'm extra special. I've seen social tactics. I've seen people awkward someone out. In religious environments, I don't know about this. And then the group wolves, pressure essentially in the person into being okay, I guess I'll believe.
This is
I'm not saying that that's even what's going on, but I don't know. You talk again.
I was just going to say, this is the last thing I'll say on it, is that, people recommend this. They're like, read that, watch this video, watch this. And I'm sure it's because it's like,
we're screwed.
No, they want you to believe what they do. They want they want you to, see the light.
Yeah.
Right? And look, it takes, open-mindedness for two people who don't do that thing, who we've watched multiple of your videos. We've already explained that we're doing this stuff. We're doing it. I would hope that gets reciprocated on the other end of this camera, that you don't watch a video like that and go, there we go, lockstep, got it, boop, boop. No, go spend a week watching things that debunk what you believe. There should be nothing to be afraid of if you're going for truth. Maybe there's a little bit of fear because if you come to some conclusion that, it might change your life. But I'm just saying, you have to be, that's what part of spirituality is taking on that bravery to go, challenge yourself and push yourself, not so much that you break yourself, but that, you can take on some other ideas. And part of being non-biased is being able to hold a thought in your head as possibly true. Not just be like, oh, I saw it, that's good. That's not being open-minded or not being biased. It's being able to hold the truth and be like, what would my life be like if that was true?
Yeah, tolerate that cognitive, what's it called?
Yeah.
Cognitive dissonance.
And if you're asking me, I have done that with the Muslim faith. What would it be like for James to be a Muslim?
Well, here's the thing. It's pretty harmless if you're like, no, I'm going to plug my ears and believe what I want. And you just are quiet about it and you're not, doing anything, not judging the hell out of people or like, being overly biased. You're probably going to suffer if you're just closed off and not open-minded.
Yeah.
But it becomes a problem when it's like, you better shut up about talking about that because it's the truth and you ought to just open your ears and listen. That's like, when it gets like intense and vicious or biting or divisive or, anything, then I think that's like, what are we doing? We got to give our head a shake here. How critically have we looked at all this?
Yeah.
It's not worth us getting violent over or whatever the case may be. Not that I'm suggesting that that's happened or going to happen or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
I think we're good.
It was a good video. I hope you guys liked it. I know there's a lot there. We've still got all your other requests on the docket. If you made it this far, congratulations. And if you did, hey, hit the like button for us. Share us with a friend. Subscribe. And everyone, until next time,
Stay spiritual.
Stay spiritual.